This is Omar Ahmed for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. With me is Top Rank's very own promoter, Mr. Bob Arum. Thank you for joining me tonight in the UK afternoon, where you are, Bob. Obviously, the heavyweight division took a massive swing on Saturday night at Tottenham Hotspur. What was your take on the fight itself, please, Bob?
Well, I always felt that Usyk was the superior boxer, and what people haven't focused on is that his training was enhanced by instructions that he received from Vasily Lomachenko's father, who we call Papa Lomachenko, who was one of the best tacticians in the sport of boxing.
Yeah, of course, someone you know very well. What did you make of, firstly, Usyk's performance? And he seemed to stamp his authority from the very start.
Well, you look at his whole body of work, with the possible exception of how cautious he was in the first two heavyweight fights that he had, both of which he won. But if you look at his body of work as a cruiserweight, you're not surprised by his decisive defeat of Anthony Joshua. Usyk is a tremendous talent, as is Vasily Lomachenko. And because of the size differential, which wasn't that great between Usyk and Joshua, many people didn't give Usyk a chance to win. But I did, and I talked with Kevin Iole before and other people, and I said that Joshua better watch out because as a pure boxer, Joshua was not equal to Usyk. Now, maybe he could lose the fight, Usyk could, because Joshua was somewhat the bigger guy and clearly had the much more devastating punch. But I certainly was not surprised by the result.
And yeah, secondly, what did you make of Anthony's performance and his tactics?
You know, they left a lot to be desired. But Omar, I've got to tell you that I don't know what Anthony Joshua could have done to beat Usyk, period. Joshua is not that good a tactician, not that good as a fighter. He's very good, but Usyk was in a class above him and is in a class above him. You know, again, Joshua against Tyson Fury is a different kind of fight. And while I thought Fury would annihilate Joshua, it would be a different kind of battle. But Usyk is probably among the big guys, the best pure boxer in the division, with the possible exception of the Gypsy King, who has tremendous boxing ability.
So it looks like the rematch will happen, as there is a rematch clause, and Anthony and Eddie have said that they want that straight away. From what you said there, Bob, and what you saw on Saturday night, do you give Anthony much of a chance in that rematch?
No, I don't. And I think that Joshua would be well off if somehow he was able to take another couple of fights before the rematch with Usyk. And if people were sensible, Joshua would work out an agreement if Tyson Fury is successful with Wilder to allow Usyk to fight Tyson Fury and to have each fighter contractually agree in his next fight, whether it's Usyk or Tyson Fury. Again, should Tyson Fury beat Wilder to fight the winner? That's sensible. But again, this is boxing, and promoters with egos and fighters not making, in my opinion, the correct decision, but really making fights based on emotion.
Bob, you know Usyk's people very well, obviously through your connections with Lomachenko, and of course you know Eddie Hearn and Team Joshua. So could you not put that option to them to say, if we beat Deontay Wilder, let's do this fight with Usyk, and then Joshua can have the winner?
Eddie Hearn, being Eddie Hearn, who is all ego, won't listen to something that makes sense. He will push, in my opinion, which he can legally, the rematch with Usyk, and that will be an additional defeat on Joshua's record and prevent him from what I think would be a massive fight, and the way it should be, against the unified champion. Usyk fights Tyson Fury or Wilder and fight the winner. And then we're into something that the public can make sense of. Not all eyes are going to be on Tyson Fury and Wilder. The winner of that fight will be accepted as the legitimate heavyweight champion, particularly should Joshua go right into an Usyk rematch, which I think is the wrong move for him.
How much value do you think Anthony brings to the table in a potential fight with Tyson Fury now, after he's lost his second pro fight now?
Well, not as much value as he brought before, but because they're two Brits and everybody has been talking about it, particularly in the UK. Joshua against Fury, should Fury beat Wilder and then beat Usyk, would be still a huge, huge fight.
Mm-hmm. And let's say Alexander Usyk wins that fight against Anthony Joshua, the rematch. Will you be straight onto Alex Krassyuk, Usyk's people, to make that undisputed fight with Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk?
Well, certainly I'd talk to them. And they're good people, and they're good boxing people, and they understand the sport and the finances. But again, they have an agenda for Usyk that they'll follow. But I would be certainly optimistic that a fight between Tyson Fury and Usyk could be made. But right now, I'm concentrating on getting Tyson Fury through Wilder. That's not going to be an easy fight, because Wilder, after experiencing that tremendous loss to Tyson Fury, is going to be a very dangerous opponent for Fury on October 9th.
Mm-hmm. Bob, I do want to get your thoughts on how that matchup potentially between Fury and Usyk would go.
Well, I think that everybody would agree that Fury is a much better boxer than Anthony Joshua. And there would be even a bigger size differential between Tyson Fury and Usyk. But trust me, you can never count out the Ukrainian. He is a very, very clever boxer. He is one of the best boxers that we've seen in recent times. I mean, of the whole crop of heavyweights, Usyk probably has the most pure talent, with the possible exception of Tyson Fury, who is just an anomaly about a big, powerful guy like Fury, and what a good boxer he is. So again, you could never count out Alexander Usyk. He is extraordinarily talented.
In terms of October 9th, of course, it's great to have Tyson Fury headlining back in Las Vegas, a huge fight week. How are tickets going for that, Bob?
Tickets are going really well. It might fall short of a sellout because we had put a few thousand tickets aside based on the hope that Brits would buy those tickets. But because of the U.S. policy ban on UK travelers, we're not going to get many Brits, if at all, for the fight. But it'll do very, very well. The casinos have bought up tickets and so forth. So while it might not be a sellout, it's going to be pretty close to a sellout. And because the prices for tickets tend to be very much higher in the United States than in the UK, the gate will exceed $12 million and might come close to 15.
Yeah, it's a shame that the ruling was November. We can actually travel to the US, so we're only 3 weeks out before that fight with Fury Wilder. It's a real shame, that, Bob.
It is a shame, but governments are governments, and I assume that our government knows what it's doing. I would have preferred for an immediate lifting of the travel ban so we could get Brits over to Las Vegas in October. But again, at least it appears to me that everything is moving in the right direction by lifting the ban in November.
Bob, what's your understanding in terms of whoever wins that fight between Wilder and Fury, what the WBC will do in terms of a mandatory call for the winner of that?
I don't know. I haven't talked to Mauricio yet, but we'll have to see. I assume you're talking about Dylan White, who's the #1 contender, and that possibly could be a big fight for Tyson, particularly if we held it in the UK. So that's not out of the question. Dylan White is a capable heavyweight, and a fight against Tyson Fury or against Wilder, whoever wins on October 9th, would be a very interesting fight.
Bob, I spoke to Frank Warren earlier today, and he said from what he saw from Anthony Joshua on the weekend, he believes now if him and Fury do ever fight, that Tyson gets him out of there within 4 to 5 rounds. Is your opinion similar?
Well, I think Tyson Fury is the much better heavyweight than Anthony Joshua. But again, it's heavyweight. And in the heavyweight division, everything is possible. Look, I lived through all those Ali days, and Joe Frazier didn't seem, based on his height and the way he fought, to be much of a challenge for Ali. But all 3 fights were fantastic fights and very competitive. And Frazier clearly won the first one, and Ali clearly won the next 2. But again, in the heavyweight division, one guy landing a tremendous punch against his opponent can turn everything around.
Okay, that's enough heavyweight talk. I do want to ask you about a couple of other things, please, Bob. So, a couple of weeks ago, we learnt that a deal had been reached for your guy Terence Crawford v Sean Porter. It looked like it was going to purse bids, but you guys reached a deal with PBC. Just talk to me how that deal was reached.
Well, we've had a very good experience with PBC promoting this Fury Wilder fight. They're professionals. Once deals are reached, and it's not easy to reach a deal, but once deals are reached, the PBC people are nothing but professionals. So we do the promotions with them relatively seamlessly. Mm-hmm. And even on Crawford and Porter, which is an excellent fight, even though it's our promotion, PBC will be involved because they're Porter's promoter. And the involvement of PBC is not looked by, at least by me, as a detriment, but a big plus.
We look forward to a cracking fight in the welterweight division. Quickly want to ask you about also two of your guys, Jamal Hearn and Shakur Stevenson. A brilliant fight, Bob.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, you know, conventional wisdom is in favor of Shakur, who's an enormous talent. But Hearn is very, very talented, and he's a Marine. And never count out a Marine. I mean, Hearn is a gutty guy, very prideful guy. And if he beat Shakur, while it would be somewhat of a surprise, it wouldn't be particularly shocking.
Okay. And just lastly, Bob, obviously we lost the world champion this weekend, but Britain's newest world champion a while back was Kid Galahad, and I know he's been interested in that fight with Navarrete potentially. Has there been any talks with Matchroom about a potential unification between Navarrete and Galahad?
Well, Navarrete has a really tough fight against Joet Gonzalez. Joet Gonzalez is a real good technician, and that fight is going to be take place in San Diego on October 15th. And if Navarrete gets by that fight and Kid Galahad is interested in a unification with Navarrete, I would love to do that fight. Sure. I mean, there's no question Galahad has improved and would make a very competitive fight with Navarrete, assuming Navarrete beats Gonzalez.
Okay. Bob Arum, appreciate your time on IFL TV as always. Will you be making a trip to the UK for Taylor v. Catra in December?
Yeah, I will. I mean, one thing that the pandemic has been tough for everybody, but it's been particularly tough for me because one thing I love being a boxing promoter is traveling abroad outside the United States. And I haven't done that for a long time. So the fight in Scotland between Taylor and Catterall, which will be shown in prime time on Sky Television, is a fight and an event that I would be looking forward to. So as of now, I'm planning to be in Scotland for that fight. I say planning because this COVID pulls off more surprises than any fighter does. And I'm just holding my breath that everything will be okay so that we'll be able to go over and watch that fight, because Taylor has a promotional contract with a Top Rank, and there are some great fights for Taylor that we can make after Catterall, which should be a good competitive fight. But Taylor against the winner of Crawford Porter would be a really good fight, and Taylor against Teofimo Lopez, once he gets through this Triller nonsense with Camboza, would do really good business in the United States.
Actually, you just mentioned Triller then. Last thing that's popped into my head. Ryan Kavanagh went on record recently and said he wants to get Evander Holyfield back in the ring after that horrible loss he had the other week. What are your thoughts on that, Bob?
Well, any commission that allows Evander Holyfield, who was one of the great fighters in my era, to come back in the ring to fight anybody is folly. It's folly because Evander is getting close to 60 years of age, and any individual, particularly a fighter, no matter how good or talented he once was, faces a terrible, terrible danger getting into a ring against a competent professional. And one of the reasons is that doctors will tell you that as an athlete ages or person ages, the cranium gets much more fragile and doesn't protect a boxer's brain the way it would in a younger man. So I think it would be horribly dangerous to do a fight for Evander Holyfield, and I wouldn't want to see that happen. There was talk of a fight for, of all people, Riddick Bowe, who was dangerous when he was fighting at the end of his career because he was so vulnerable and his skills had so eroded. That would have been a tragedy. I mean, there has to be an intervention by the people that regulate boxing not to allow these type of fights to happen. And the reason is not because it's a fraud on the public. The public is smart enough to know whether they should buy a fight or not buy a fight. It's on them. It's caveat emptor. The fighter, the buyer beware. But it's a danger to the aging athlete. And we've got to prevent that, because there will come a time where one of these fighters who shouldn't be in the ring anymore gets seriously damaged in a fight, and the outcry will be enormous. And people will say, why did the people in boxing allow this to happen, right? It's inevitable that that is what will occur. And I can't stop it, because legally there's no way to stop it. The commissions could stop it. I know for sure that in Nevada, the Nevada Athletic Commission would not give somebody like Holyfield, as great as he once was, a license to fight.
I think 99% of people watching this will agree with those words, Bob. Bob, as I said, appreciate your time, and hopefully see you in the States in November when we can travel again.
Well, you can come probably as you can get special permission as a media person to come over. That's what we've been told. And I know that a lot of the media from the UK will be able to come over to watch the October 9th fight in person. And those who can't and won't can see it live in the early morning hours on October 10th on pay-per-view on BT Sports.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah, Bob, see you soon and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Talking to you.